Hey people, thank you for tuning in and welcome to our review, our spoiler review of Captain Marvel. It's Ian here along with Chris.
Hey.
Hey, if you, chances are you might have come here just from our short synopsis, our non-spoiler review that we have. Just gets a quick rundown of that, so you are forewarned ahead of time. If you don't want spoilers, if you don't want those woods revealed, if you just want to wait and see this thing yourself, then just go check out our basic synopsis or, tune away from this. But
go see the movie first.
Yeah, we're going to be delving into this thing. This is a really important part for what we've had of the current build of MCU, where we're at now phase-wise, and most importantly, how this movie is going to set us up for the end of Infinity War.
Or for Infinity War in general.
True. True. Wait, in general, you think we're going to go beyond stuff after Endgame? Or...
Well... Yeah, I mean, there was a Spider-Man trailer.
Well, yeah, but with Infinity War in general, you're making it sound like the Infinity War is going to continue after...
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I get Infinity War and Endgame mixed up. Because they are. They're it's a two-part thing, basically.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
Don't mind me.
It's all good. It's all good, man. Yeah.
Ian. Okay, so, yeah, definitely we are going to... I mean, there's a lot of things to hit in this that are very spoilerish. We're gonna, what we do here in the review and discussion is we don't just talk about various aspects of the film and what we thought were good or bad. We dig into stuff here. So, and there's a lot to dig into this.
Oh yeah,
there's a heck of a lot to dig into this one. But first, Ian, what did you think of Captain Marvel overall?
A concern I had coming into this was, all right, how much focus is going to be given on the quote unquote Mary Sue moment, or is something to turn this around on the cosmic level from the events we had in Infinity War? I had faith Marvel could do that, so I didn't let that really cloud me coming into it. Seeing her in action, actually, and seeing the way her powers are based. Look, I'll be honest, I thought it was cool. And actually, I thought her backstory for what she has here is especially for how she claims her powers, is a pretty refreshing thing. Bear in mind, going back to the comics, original Marvel pulled from the white hole, which is, something that does exist. At least in theoretical physics. Yeah. But that was such a distant concept, and that felt like one of those hats you could just pull more and more things out of, whatever was convenient to the plot, than having a base of power a lot more centralized, a lot more foundational, what we had here. I loved the fact that the Tesseract was such an essential artifact, and not just Carol Danvers and her coming into her powers, but everything that was happening, not just with the Earth, but the greater galaxy at that time with the Kree and the Skrulls and everything like that. So really, moving, I think the fact alone that they've sort of moved her power base from white hole to fragment of Infinity Stone, essentially, cool.
Wow, you just laid down a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I opened that can.
I'm going to rewind a little bit because I want to touch on one of the first things you said was, and let's get into this a little bit. We're going to get into more of this on our weekly podcast, which will be out Sunday. But you had made the comment about coming in and expecting, or at least having heard or being worried about Captain Marvel being a Mary Sue type of character. Do you think she is? Having watched the movie now? No, I don't think so either. We've been covering this movie coming up for a while now, ever since, even before they even showed the first trailer. They announced Captain Marvel a while ago. Ever since the first trailer, though, there's been a lot of, I don't know, what would you call it, Ian? Animosity?
Yeah, that's a good word for it. One thing.
Just even before she said the stupid comments that she did a few weeks back about, which, by the way, she's not wrong. How she handled it was stupid. Her speech was stupid, but there is a lack of diversity when it comes to people who do reviews.
Right.
But how she approached that and how she brought it up with, basically that one line she had was just covered by a bunch of garbage that spewed out of her mouth with it. which really set things off. But there were people, don't misunderstand this. There have been people who have been railing against this movie for no good reason for about half a year now, which is when the first teaser came out. And, it's been ridiculous. Let me just say this real quick. Brie Larson, I think she was a great Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed her more as Captain Marvel, having seen it now, than I thought I would before. And before then, I thought I'd actually never even seen a movie she was in. I was wrong. I actually saw 21 Jump Street. She was in that.
There you go.
She was good. But I mean, that's how much the performance landed on me. Is that I didn't come out and I think, oh, that Brie Larson, she's great.
Yeah.
She was really good here. I thought, and I've heard some people really just rail on her performance. I thought it was spot on. And I made comments about this a few weeks ago because there were some people were talking about her, for lack of a better term, emotionless performance.
Right. I was just about to bring that up. The thing that you always hear is that the flatness.
It's intentional.
Right.
She is doing that. She is playing this role the way that I think should have been played. She's coming across this person who doesn't know who she is, who doesn't know where she's from. She's always been confused about it. She's missing the vast majority of her memories from her life. She's a Kree warrior hero, as she believes. Which I still think every time I hear that about the Kree, I think it's hilarious. It's just, I thought she did it really well. And once she starts discovering who she is and some of her memories and starts putting the pieces together, you can see. I don't want to say a drastic difference, but there is definitely a difference in who this person is and how they're reacting. And I think it's spot on. Now, a lot of people say, well, they could have picked someone better. Maybe that's true. But she does this really well. I'm looking forward to seeing Brie Larson as Captain America in future MCU films, to which there will be 6 more. She has a contract for 7.
Right.
So, and you feel similar?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm going to loop back a little bit too about performance-wise here. I felt what she did to sell the character is coming off as that hot shot, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I think a cool thing that a cool line she managed to tell here was that part of her personality is just ingrained. That's always there. That sort of impetuousness, slight recklessness. But the way she threads that from, basically having the partial amnesia all the way to the point where she regains her memories and has those things. She maintains that early thread while growing sort of back into who she was and marrying those things with who she is now. I think that's done well. Is this a character that I look forward to seeing? And going forward, heck yeah. I got no problem with that.
I think where we got to see the most distinction here as well was the flashback when she's actually flying that test plane, the Pegasus. Yeah. And you can see a distinct difference in how she's acting.
Yeah, big time.
So I mean, obviously this is up for interpretation. However people want to feel about Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. I left this movie feeling better about it.
Sure.
Because I mean, we had spoken about it, and I had said that I think that what we're seeing from the trailers and such is intentional. But seeing the movie confirmed it for me.
Absolutely.
And besides that, we're going to talk. Like I said, we're going to talk more about this whole. How did I refer to it before we started recording? Masculinity versus SJW.
It's because there's so much that's exploded around this. Yeah, there's so many platforms at war.
This on both sides has been deteriorating our entertainment for a while now, and so we're going to talk about that in greater scope on our podcast coming up this weekend. But I mean, obviously, it is centered around this movie,
right?
And I mean this, and you hear about it, and some of the creators had said, this is a bit of a feminist film, and is that there? It is, and at times
you see it.
At times, does it make it a lesser movie? At times, it does, and we'll go into detail about that. Or at least I will. That's my opinion. But that doesn't make it bad. This is a good movie, and to kind of go full circle on this, ask for your overall opinion. My overall opinion is that this had the potential to be a great movie that, at its end, ended up becoming. It's a good movie. I don't even know if I would put this in the MCU's top 10.
Right.
But there was a lot of potential here for it to be a lot better than what it was. And honestly, my biggest disappointment didn't have anything to do with any of this SJW crap or all this garbage that people are spewing out from one side or the other. It was my biggest disappointment was that, oh man, I saw him miss a lot of shots in the film. There was a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that were just missed. But at the end of it, it was still good. I still had a good time. I enjoyed it. There's some great moments, but there could have been a lot better moments. There could have been a lot more moments that were a lot better.
Yeah.
Overall,
that could add more impact.
Yeah, and I think I think that's what we're going to get in detail here. But obviously, we had to square that circle with all that garbage, and at least let them know where we stand with it, and where we're coming from reviewing this thing. So,
sure.
All right. Yeah. All right. So let's move on then.
Yeah, setting this whole thing up, I do want to look at the world and world building. This is always something that we hit on with Marvel movies, and I think it's a really good contrast to hit here because on the one hand, you've got the Kree homeworld. We're thrown into that right off the bat, super advanced. This high society, and then really quickly we get a chance to compare that to 90s USA. This film just bled the 90s, and there were so many just little things about the 90s that you couldn't help but smirk. Especially if you came up during those times, look, everything from modems and the dial-up internet to what was on the radio at the time to what was out in shops. I mean, everybody
was having a lot of fun with it.
It was.
They started it off with the Blockbuster, but then they doubled down with the Radio Shack.
Yeah,
and I thought that was great. I'm like, wow. All right, there it is. They're poking all over. And can I say on that point, I love the soundtrack for this movie.
No, it's solid.
I hate how they used a lot of it. And in fact, this is one of the very few times, maybe the only time I left an MCU movie just not liking the score.
And that's a surprise.
I did not like how they used a lot of the music, and I thought the score was off. I did not think it. In fact, it's not. I probably wouldn't comment if I thought it had a neutral effect. It actually, I think, at times had a negative effect. I thought at times that it just didn't land quite right. And I'm going to say it right now. And this is one of the biggest times where they just plain went too far. That No Doubt song and that fight with the Star Force.
Yeah,
that was horrible. That is probably the biggest example of, wow, this could have been so much better had there been someone else behind the wheel putting this together.
I almost felt that was starting to at least attempt to step into some Thor Ragnarok / Guardians of the Galaxy territory.
Yeah,
where it
really
wasn't needed.
But this was bad. It was distracting, and not only to the point of distracting. I thought the fact that they're trying to hit the action going on the screen way too much on the nose with what's going on with the song.
Yeah.
And it took so much away from what should have been the best fight scene in the whole movie. Was that she's now she has to fight her former allies, her former team.
Right.
And it was just this jumbled, poorly edited garbage.
One thing I do want to comment, some good that came out of that. And I think some people may have missed this as well. There's some concern about, because by that point she has finally untapped these powers in full. She's never had a chance to really use them full bore. Mm-hmm. She's always had the limiter on her, and without that limiter, now she's firing the full concussion blast, off her entire body and everything like that. The thing I was looking for in that scene, which I did see, and I'm glad we did get this, was she going to at least have some kind of I'm getting used to this moment? If you remember, there was one where she shot 2 full force beams and she sort of blasted herself back too. Mm-hmm. And it kind of took her aback a second and she realized, all right, this has got a lot more kick. Let me try to, rein this in a bit. So I thought at least for that, because that was before everything got really crazy in that scene, but for a good establishing shot like that, for her coming into that much power, I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm. No, fair enough. And I think that was fine, but I think altogether as an action scene, as a fight scene, it was a jumbled up piece of. It was shitty. It was shitty.
I've seen worse with shaky cameras.
I don't know if I've seen worse with the MCU though.
That's true.
It was bad.
True. That's a fair statement. Fair
It
statement.
I mean, and this is the same person who says the airplane scene in Civil War is still to me the best fighting / action scene that's been in film. And if you follow us, we're big MCU fans over here at KSAW, but we'll nail them if they deserve it. And I mean, it was just way too on the nose. It's like they weren't going for a strong action scene. They were going for something else,
right?
And it just didn't work. It just didn't work. Now I want to transition to something else. You'd spoken about this a little bit ago, and that is her origin, where she gets her powers. Seeing the Tesseract was awesome.
Yes.
Seeing it used in that way was even better. It being the core to the engine, which makes complete sense. That is the Space Stone, if I remember correctly.
It sure is.
And the fact that it can, be used and harnessed in such a way to go into light speed and such, it all really made a lot of sense. The biggest aha, and I haven't had a chance because you and I think we're both within like 2 hours of having seen this movie,
right?
Because it was always my assumption, and maybe that was intentional, that I know they found the Tesseract before they found Captain America, but I didn't think it was years apart.
Exactly.
I mean, because that puts it because Captain America, I think, wakes up from being frozen. What is it? Weeks? It's weeks after they find him. But obviously, they found the Tesseract. Shoot, what are we talking about? 15 years later, or 15 years prior?
Yeah, there's some real questions that you have here about how it got into whose hands when.
Right.
Now, I'll say this to anybody who goes to check out this film. Of course, we're going to talk about this here too, but please watch both after credit scenes. There is a mid after credit scene and there is an end after credit scene. So I'm looking at the one for the end first, which that was a good chuckle.
You got to be careful because they're not always the same either. They're not. They do shuffle them around. So which one was your very end one?
The very end was the cat puking the Tesseract back up.
Okay, that's what we had as well. Was the cat, which was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
That's awesome. I'll jump. I'm not going to jump on a lot of bandwagons here, but I will jump on the Goose bandwagon.
Goose, yeah,
Goose is awesome.
I was thinking about you the whole time. Like, Chris has to be loving this.
I have a cat. Cats are fun.
Yeah.
My cat doesn't eat Infinity Stones, but maybe that's just because he hasn't had the chance.
Your cat's also not a what was that?
What is this supposed to be?
That alien race.
Yeah, I don't know, a gooper or something? What do they call it? I don't know.
Flurkin. There you go.
Or a gooper. You can go with gooper. We'll know what you mean.
Dude, I had to look into that. Those were a thing.
I'm sure they were. I'm sure most things in the movies, they're pretty good about pulling stuff out of the comics from somewhere. So
yeah. But yeah, the Tesseract and who had it when. We know that by the end of all this, in the second after credit scene, it just sort of pukes it back up on Fury's desk, and there it is. But of course, we can't help but flash back to Captain America and look at Red Skull and company, getting a hold of that and everything that they did with it. That was a really big deal. So, and then even more than that, I think there's a few pieces we're missing. How it got into Asgardian hands.
Oh, well, no, that's easy.
I'm trying to remember.
At least for part of it. Thor took it at the end of Avengers. He took him and Loki, the Tesseract and Loki, back to Asgard.
That's right. Okay, see, I was fuzzy in that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, still, we're missing huge gaps, so we don't exactly know when the Tesseract was found. We just know that it was at some point. And again, maybe it says it because what movie was that they showed that at the beginning of? I think I don't know. I don't remember.
For previews?
No, there is actually a scene at the beginning of one of the MCU movies. I can't remember which one, where they actually show them getting the Tesseract. At least I think there is. There is, isn't there?
There's
Yeah, it's been so.
It had to be Thor. It had to be.
Was it Thor?
It had to be because that's the one that dealt with it the most.
Okay.
Like
maybe
besides Cap.
But so we don't exactly know when it was found. We know that it got into S.H.I.E.L.D.'s hands in 1995. And we know that the government had it at some point before then.
Right.
Because obviously they gave it to What's-Her-Face. So, What's-Her-Face? Marvel. Which, by the way, I have no real statement one way or the other. I'm not an old school Captain Marvel fan.
Sure.
If people were upset that maybe that's one of their favorite older superheroes, and obviously is a very big difference from what the character was before, I got nothing. I mean, if I'm not coming from that perspective.
Same, and
So
for her part in it, I mean, I thought Annette Bening, you know, I I thought she was fine in this.
she's usually good in anything that she
She's solid.
does.
She was solid.
Yeah, she's
So
always solid. But as far as like, because I mean, Captain Marvel was around long before Miss Marvel was.
oh yeah,
Before. And
oh yeah,
so I mean, I guess if you're upset about it, I got nothing one way or the other. I'm sorry they raped one of your favorite superheroes, because this is obviously a huge departure from that character. I know enough to know that. I thought Jude Law, who by the way was great in this, they'd been talking about forever. There were rumors and whispers that he was Captain Marvel. Maybe that could have worked better. I think that's definitely more in
Sure.
line with who that character was. Yeah, but he was still fine. And I am going to actually, you know what? I'm going to have to jump on one other bandwagon here. Ben Middleton,
Mm-hmm.
freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. Everyone's coming out of this thing. I don't know if he was the best performer. Maybe he was. Maybe he was the best performer. But him and as a Skrull was perfect. And I'm watching this movie in the theater. I'm like, how are you ever going to have another Skrull now? Because it's not going to match up to Ben Mendelsohn as a Skrull.
It won't.
You've
He
ruined
killed
him.
this.
Yeah, they've ruined Skrulls now. Now that being said, I say that sarcastically. I do not like the fact that the Skrulls came off, and not only came off, but at least in this film were the good guys.
This is a really important note we're getting here. You know, the Skrulls, and I'm not even talking about anything crazy like the Super Skrull yet or anything like that. But the Skrulls, I have long been established as baddies.
They're
I mean,
dirty. They're
dirty. They infiltrate your government. They break into your house. They take your cookies. You know, and you won't
And
even
the
know.
good ones too. They don't. They get to the fudge stripes. They don't. They leave the oatmeal ones alone. They go right for the chocolate chip and the fudge stripes. They don't mess around.
Oh,
I did
man.
not like that. And did they do anything that couldn't be changed? Absolutely not. And I mean, we have Fantastic Four coming up, so you want to start. Sorry about that. You want to start talking about Skrull stuff. I mean, once we start getting into the Fantastic Four in the upcoming years, oh my God, then we're going to start getting into Super Skrulls and all that. But I think it was a decent introduction. But at the same time, I think they should have portrayed the Skrulls to have the potential, or at least emphasize more the potential that they can be just as nasty as the Kree, because they certainly can.
Right. Easily. I mean, for all we know, the events that transpired there, once they actually do find a world to settle on, I mean, you know, who's to say where the politics go from there? Or if there's another initiative to sort of, push back and, reclaim other territory or go and expand out. I mean, the fact alone, I think here's the thread that can be pulled on at any point. This is just such a clear setup, I think, on Marvel's side, when he specifically says that, there's thousands of us scattered about. We haven't all been united. I mean, what's the first thing when you have any sort of, differing tribes? Even if they come from the very same people, there's usually different ways of seeing things, different ideologies, different perspectives, and that's likely going to clash at some point. I have a hard time believing that every Skrull can be united and it's just going to be kumbaya. So,
well, it is 24 years in the past, so they've had plenty of time moving forward into MCU movies to establish pretty much anything and be the dirty bastards they really are.
There you go.
So, but I was a little disappointed by that, especially because, I mean, you have so many things hinting up to them. They're taking identities and they're doing all this dirty stuff. And
right.
At the end of it, it all felt like they justified it. And I feel a little bit tweaking in the script and in the story. Just taking a moment or two to establish, make it a little bit more of a struggle to help the Skrulls, not put a family in front of them and just like, oh, look at a Skrull mom and a Skrull kid and all the kids are hanging out. No, these are dirty people. They should be like in that house stealing stuff or like looking into just hints about them looking into maybe doing more dirty things on Earth, or it just this is one of many moments throughout the film that a missed opportunity, I think.
I will play devil's advocate with that though. This is something that Marvel's done very, very well with Thanos. There's something that can be said, I think, for showing two sides of any villain.
That's fine. They get all the time in the world to show two sides.
They do. They have plenty, but I would say how we're sort of brazenly lambasted with the good side up front without that counterbalance really leads you towards a different leaning up front. Well, I think I'm just pointing out, but I think what made Thanos so effective is that you had both of those at once.
I agree. I agree with you on that, and they did a really good job with Thanos and fleshing out that character. I guess we agree and disagree at the same time, because I think it would have been a better movie had they properly fleshed things out on both sides. I mean, here you have the Kree, and the Kree got very fleshed out.
Right.
Starting out like this and then ending up like that. But then it's just like, oh, the Skrulls are good guys now.
Right.
And I think it would have been better if they would have. Yeah, but they're still dirty bastards. Just show that a little bit more. Don't go all family unit now and we're all hanging out. By the way, those are aliens that were that were infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D. yesterday.
And just hanging out in hoodies. Have me over Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
That's a little much at the end. I'll say this, and if you're a consistent film goer, especially you see a lot of action flicks, this may have given it away from you. This happened to me, and I want to point it out. The fella who played Korath, I believe it's Mr. Sorry if I'm butchering this. Jimon Honso. He has the bald. He has kind of like the African build to him. He was wielding the two swords.
Yeah.
He always plays such a good villain. Anything he's in. And I kid you not, I saw him and I'm like, they're going to be bad guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I had heard a review the other day saying that Ronan's place in this film was absolutely unneeded. And I disagree. I mean, it is small, but the fact that they have them both together, and you're almost seeing the seeds that grow into them becoming a team.
Absolutely.
And I mean, furthermore, this whole incident, which is really embarrassing for the Kree, you can potentially grow this out of why Ronan becomes such an extremist in the future.
Definitely.
And I think again, it was small. Was it necessary? No, it wasn't necessary. But I definitely I'd heard somebody say that it was unneeded, and. No, I think it did a good job of fleshing out a lot of what we'd seen from Guardians of the Galaxy. Just a little bit. Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's where that started, and maybe that's why they're working together. And
sure.
I thought that was good. In the movie does a lot of that. Especially bringing up the Tesseract was huge. I do not agree with how Samuel L. Jackson basically loses an eye.
Man, Marvel is, in your opinion, they've struck out twice with losing eyes, right?
What was the other one?
Thor.
Oh, did I not like that? I don't remember.
You didn't like it because of how it came. How things came back around. I
didn't like how he just. Yeah, I mean, here's freaking God of Thunder popping in a fake eye. Keep him without his eye.
Yeah,
he looks badass like that. It's it's a reflection of him maturing and becoming like his father.
It is absolutely.
And the fact that they undid that one, but they're not undoing this one. Obviously, they're I just think that's silly. I mean, especially in Winter Soldier, you see how mangled that whole thing is.
You do,
and it's like, what, the cat scratch did that?
Yeah.
That did that. I don't think that was that all that did that.
I mean, you could make a very, I think, paper thin argument that, well, technically it's not a cat. It's an alien cat.
No, I'm sure that has something to do with it.
It's a Flurkin cat, but still, I almost want to say even then, have it to be something like, okay, maybe instead of like the scratch, like something about like its paw was like corrosive, right?
At least prelude to it.
Right.
Give us something leaning in that direction.
I will say this, it felt so sudden for something so significant on such an impactful character.
Well, and I don't understand why Coulson brings in the case of glass eyes when in Winter Soldier, I mean, it's, clearly not working, but his eye is still in there.
Right.
Is that the MCU screwing up on canon? Which is very rare. But he brings in all the glass eyes for him. Like he doesn't need it. His eye's still there. It just doesn't work.
Right.
I thought that was really weird. See, again, missed opportunities.
Yeah.
There's small failures throughout this whole movie.
Yeah. I thought there'd be some more significance behind that whole thing too. But
not cat scratch fever.
Yeah.
And now, can I say, and it was great. And by the way, the de-aging that they did in this movie was awesome. You barely even notice it.
Yeah.
I've been for the most part a fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Great to see Coulson. But Samuel L. Jackson obviously co-starring in this. He was great. He did the best he could, but I don't think the script and the directors quite got Fury.
Right.
And
right.
And again, yes, I know it's like the first time we see him is 2008, so this is 13 years prior. I actually don't think he needs to be looking quite as young as he does. It's only 13 years. The first time we see him is 2008 in Iron Man 1.
Right.
So I think he's looking a little. I think the gap there's a little too much. I don't know. Maybe at that point, and S.H.I.E.L.D. starts picking up, and they start dealing with aliens and monsters and all that. So maybe it ages them a little bit more. I thought that was a little off, but mainly there were times when the interaction between Fury and Captain Marvel just did not land. There were times when it was great, but there were times when it's like, yeah, that's not even. Was that a joke?
Right.
Was that a little pun or a little quip there? I can't
tell.
Right. A lot of stuff just didn't land.
And I think that's such an important selling point for something like this, especially that the nature of that relationship in the movie. I mean, you go back to the end of Infinity War, and we know that this is someone that, all right, like if this is someone Fury has on speed dial in his back pocket, it's someone he trusts big time. How did that trust get built? What were things like before? How did they meet? How did they get everything established? And I think from meeting her, that was pretty good. Crashing the Blockbuster Video and the whole Radio Shack thing, and then she kind of pulls the whole MacGyver, deal with rigging up, the tech.
So no, thank you for bringing that up, because you say,
sure.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, right.
It's like I understand that you're good with technology and all that, but when did you have the opportunity to sit down at the living room table or whatever and rig up the pager? Like, how did you pull that off?
And I think you highlight the right one. That's the funniest part. I had personally way less of an issue with, okay, let's say you're on a foreign planet, or you think it's foreign at least, and you're able to make some kind of makeshift method of communication based off of what you know. I mean, at this point, she's got 6 years worth of training, increased special forces. So cool. I'm cool with that. All right, I'll back off.
Right.
But the whole thing, modifying the tech to actually fix the pager to do this, and it's got multiple galaxies, worth of ranges. That's a slightly different skill set.
Galaxy or two.
Galaxy or two.
Go a galaxy or two. By the way, that's a 50% difference there. Can you be a little bit more exact? It was an opportunity for them to show that she's still very much a person out of water. If she would have actually gave some specific number of distance, that's ridiculous for someone to even fathom, except for unless you're a Star Force person. But but this is there's a few opportunities like this in the film. Like, for example, when she takes the bike and changes her clothes.
Yeah.
Where's her spacesuit?
Yeah.
Where
does it go?
And I asked that again when she had it back on. And I'm like,
yeah,
where was it? Where were you keeping this thing?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I understand if it's just some kind of normal garb, but that's your Star Force spacesuit, which has the retractable helmet that allows you to be in space.
Yep.
You did not leave that at the Gap, I'm sure. So where did you put it? Oh, not to mention the bracer with all the tech and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, that's horrible. That's horrible. That's again, it takes you out of it. Well, at least it did for me.
A bit.
It's you can't just like, oh, it's gone. No,
Yeah.
no, it's not. It's somewhere. I know it is. Oh, see, she had it. Where was she keeping it?
Where was
now
it?
She's,
Yeah.
Now she's got it back on. And then it's like, well, where's her other clothes? And not to mention when she at the end of the movie when she goes into space, she's wearing her jacket. I'm like, you're ruining your jacket.
Yeah, you're right.
Especially with all the fire and energy that's coming off it. It's like that thing should have burnt in a crisp. Not to mention when she went up in space.
Yeah, I was saying to myself,
atmosphere.
I was really surprised when she asked for the jacket, and I'm like, is she? Don't tell me she's going to go out into space with that. I was like, she just did.
I mean, and again, yes, it's a comic book movie, but it's the MCU. We're used to things with a bit more explanation.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to costumes. You don't screw around with an MCU superhero's costume.
That's a big deal.
These things are very important. I mean, that was established with the very first movie with Iron Man, not even letting him go up in the upper atmosphere without having issues.
Right.
You know, now we have disappearing spacesuits and leather jackets that, shit, man, I'm surprised S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't, take that jacket. I'm like, man, this thing could survive going into space.
Give me that.
And Tesseract level energy. By the way, and this was a cool moment. I think they did this on purpose. Now I'll rip on them and I'll give them a plus on this. When Captain Marvel first grabs the Tesseract and she just like tosses it up like no problem. I mean, we've seen people die touching these Infinity Stones.
Yes.
And she's just got it like, got it cute. Yeah. I thought that was good. I think that was a really good spot at empowering the character and showing just like, yeah, she can hold the Tesseract without a issue.
I think the only other character who I've seen just kind of at least. Well, she didn't hold it, but she did sort of glaze over it as not a big deal. Hela, back at Thor Ragnarok. That's the only other character I can think of who was that casual around it. When she was looking for the suitor thing, she's like, I guess that's okay. And then finally, she finds the room she wants. So
let's I want to delve into something here. This just came to mind because you brought up Hela. You brought up someone else from the Marvel universe, and now it's got me wondering. And there's been a lot of comments about this too. People saying, well, okay, so now Rogue can come in the future and take Captain Marvel's powers, which is a huge part of the Marvel comic universe and an actual thing that happens. And a lot of people know that both from the comics and because it was a story that they used in the X-Men cartoon, the 90s cartoon, which everybody loves and has fond memories of. Do you think that in the future they let Rogue take Captain Marvel's Tesseract Infinity Stone powers?
See, they've set a really interesting precedent. If there's anything that I think comes out of this film, I think that really just creates the whole world universe building here. It's her power base. Because I said, all right, what's so important about this film is now that we're starting to look at cosmic level powers, okay? And when you say cosmic level, all right, now you're starting to go into Silver Surfer and like Galactus territory and stuff like that. You got to be careful with this stuff. As for Rogue's ability to absorb it, I don't see that. That's
a lot to. I mean, let's let the teenage X-Men absorb Captain Marvel's Infinity Stone given powers. I don't think so.
I don't see it. I mean, look, I say it this way: the way Rogue always came across were, mutant abilities and foundational powers or base powers to said mutant. She could take those, and that's not much of a stretch. So Jubilee can shoot sparks. All right, now I can shoot sparks. Cyclops can do. Yeah, I can do that too.
I'll amend what I said because I can actually see it temporarily, which is how her ability is supposed to work, where she can take the powers temporarily.
It's not permanent, right?
Right, but in the whole reason it is permanent, and this was canon in both the comics and the cartoon, is that because she held on to her for so long.
Right.
And the reason that Captain Marvel, even Carol Danvers, survived it was because she was so freaking powerful.
Right.
Usually in that situation, it would kill a person.
Easily.
I think that would actually be fun to see it temporarily. Yeah, it's interesting though. You start bringing up other characters, and this has been a connection that people have been making. Obviously, we're getting the X-Men sometime here in the future, so which gets me excited because then you're talking crossovers. So,
Sure, sure.
but yeah, no, I actually, one of the few things that I liked from one of the very few things I liked from the Fox X-Men movies is the fact that Rogue had that ability, was not this OP character like she was from the 90s.
Absolutely.
I appreciated a more grounded Rogue, and I'm hoping to see that in the future. But it's just interesting because it's a huge moment in the comic books in general.
Yeah.
When in the fact that they even did it and what happened with all that. So, I hope they don't do it. And if they do, I hope it's just for a limited amount of time. But I think that does definitely change the dynamic of the power set.
It would. It
So.
does. It does. It's just I actually this is another one of those times where I this is a change where I actually like over the comics. It's in a state now where, especially with her, you can't just, I think, magically pull things out of the hat. Well, the white hole can do this too. Oh, by the way, that's another thing about the white hole.
That's
It's like,
true.
you can't magic trick this. The Infinity Stones are very established. We know specifically their abilities and what they do. And so having a fragment of that at least, or having those energies, we know a lot of those powers are going to obey certain things that we know. And if they don't, you got a problem. So,
All right. So, are we pretty much done talking about the film? Because there's other aspects of Captain Marvel I would like to touch before.
yeah,
we go.
let's move on to those.
Okay. So, Captain Marvel in Endgame, huge role, minor role, or too much of a role?
Oh man, from what we're seeing right now, I have a hard time believing it's going to be the third one. Oh, too much of a role. Look,
That's
there's
also
been
subjective, by the way. So.
it is subjective. It is subjective. There's been too much building over a decade plus to just have one character yank the carpet and everything's fixed.
Yeah, that would suck. I mean, exactly.
Yeah.
11 years at that point, and here comes the person you just introduced a month ago into this world, and smack him right in the face. All right, it's done. just punches Thanos in the face, takes the gauntlet, and gives it to the Avengers. All right, bring your friends back.
Here you go.
Yep. Where's my cat? I'm gonna go hang out with my cat now.
Oh man, no. Obviously, important, but I don't think down to the critical point where everything hinges around her. Look, bear in mind, the Avengers have been all right without her up to this point.
Well, have they? Have they though?
I say that. That's subjective in a way.
Why don't you ask Spider-Man if that's subjective?
Oh, shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! No, it's as far as them being a team, the stuff they fought off. I should clarify that. For the invasion of New York, they'd need her. For a lot of the threats and the things that have come to Earth, they've been able to fight that without even having any idea who she is. So obviously she is going to play an important part, but I think it would be reductive to what Marvel had built up to this point to sort of write everybody else off to the side. I don't see it.
I trust the directors for Endgame to handle this, but it would be very easy for them to make her be an unwanted, imposing force on the film.
True. This is true.
It would not take much if they actually used her to how they just showed in this movie and how she's been in the past. She is potentially the most powerful superhero in the MCU now. She's definitely up there. I mean, she's got the power of a freaking Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, and she's always been extremely powerful. But now they kind of ramped that up a little bit.
They did,
So,
and I think the only second you'd have to that was Vision, who housed an Infinity Stone for a while. So
we used it in a very different way, obviously.
True.
But it'll be interesting. I know a lot of people would probably already say, "Oh, it's already unwanted." Well, come on, be subjective. I trust them though. I think they'll do a good job. However, now that being said, the other end credit scene.
Yeah.
How did she just get into Avengers headquarters? without a single alarm. I understand how powerful she is, but she's not a ninja.
Ninja.
She's a blunt force, if anything.
Well, I almost want to say you'd have to. Again, this is a case where you got to look at the Space Stone and its abilities. Now, if I have that right, now correct me if I'm wrong. The Space Stone also has to do with movement, correct?
Well, yeah, no, the Space Stone allows for teleportation. They were openly using it once they had it.
Right.
In Endgame, or I get it mixed up, in Infinity War. As soon
Sure.
as they had the Space Stone, they were just teleporting all over the place.
That's why I don't think that's much of a stretch as it might seem. Because I point this scene out too. As Carol Danvers quickly harnesses her powers. I mean, well, to the point where in midair learning flight, right?
Mm-hmm.
I say give however much time has passed from then when she goes off to fight the Kree in whatever foreign galaxy that is to when now, aka Endgame, when she returns to Earth, that much more time to get in touch with her powers and what they actually are.
It's been 25 years.
I would think by that point, if she does indeed have the power of that stone, that she'd learn how to translocate.
Did you notice that she hadn't aged one bit either?
Sure do.
I don't know, man. I mean, because she's not an Infinity Stone. She's been infused with a bunch of its power. We don't know how much, but she's not an Infinity Stone, though. And we saw nothing that was showing she could teleport. I don't think there's anything that in comic book canon that gives her teleport. That just kind of pissed me off. It's like, look, I understand you're massively more powerful, but still, that's a Stark building. How are you not setting off at least one alarm? How are you getting in there? How are you not only getting in there, but getting behind the Avengers without being noticed?
That's a big deal.
So
that's a big deal. I mean, look, we see her hit light speed at the end of this film. And she's doing that already. Like, I'm like, look, if you can warp literally like that, like Star Trek Eat Your Heart Out, hey, it's going to be sky's the limit at this point.
But out of the many lessons of The Last Jedi, to which there are many horrible lessons that we learned, one is crashing something with light speed will destroy it. So I don't buy that.
Oh man, I'm not good reference, by the way. Not saying she moved at light speed to get into Avengers headquarters, but I feel you.
I bring it up because I feel it was almost kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing for that.
I feel you.
And that bothers me. I mean, part of what makes the MCU as good as, and they're not perfect, but they're careful about these things.
They are.
And her just popping up behind, I want an explanation in Endgame. That's all I'm saying.
But wait for it. We might get it.
We might. I hope so. I mean, it was an interesting reference. It was cool. Yeah, there's Captain Marvel. There's the Avengers. Which, by the way, the Avengers are definitely looking out for the count.
Holy
crap!
Aren't they looking worn down?
Somebody go get them Goose so they have a kit in the pet because this is ridiculous.
I was just like, dude, like Cap and Black Widow alone are just like and then Rhodey. Oh my god, dude! Like
fucking pity party going on over there.
This just goes to show, I think, how attached we've gotten to this over the years, and I think these characters too. I mean, you can't help but put yourself right in these shoes. I immediately started thinking the end of the most recent Ant-Man and stuff. With this look of a very bleak Earth with the crazy number missing, and then here we see it in this end credit scene. You just see the counts in the millions flying up from people missing. I mean, it's an apocalyptic scene. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, come on, brush yourself off here, though. You're the Avengers. You gotta avenge this. It's your name.
Right.
No, okay. So from that, I think what we might get though is we might get Captain Marvel, just going and getting Stark and Nebula, just getting the ship and bringing it back to Earth. And I think that's one of the scenes that we've seen in the trailers where they're all looking up. I think that's how they all get solved. Probably the Avengers are able to track Stark and they know where he is. Like, oh, he's in that other galaxy over there. We got nothing. And Captain Marvel's like, all right, hold my beer.
Yeah, hold on, man. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's exactly how that ends up playing out. Then
I think that's a really sound prediction.
So, okay, I think that's it.
Cool.
I'm done.
Cool. No, I mean, you cover a lot of stuff that actually I was looking at, and some of the side things you walked right into what I want to talk about anyway. So, we're squaring that circle, man. Hey, what do you want to give this out of scrolls? What's our rating?
I like it. 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10 scrolls.
Scrolls.
1 out of 10 scrolls. I will give this. I'm going to give it a 7.5. And I going into this, I caught a couple other people's reviews, and I'm like, I really hope I can give it something else.
Yeah.
Because it's just sitting there. It's just like average at the end. It is. It is. If you're an MCU fan, there's a lot here to love, but there's also a lot of things not to love, and there's some things to question. But there are some really great moments in this thing that basically save it. This thing is about 4 or 5 awesome moments away from being a disaster. From being what a lot of people were hoping and will claim no matter what that it is. It's not. It's a good movie. There's some great stuff here. There's some misses here. At the end of the day, just like we started, this could have been a great movie. Yeah. It's good. It's good. I'm leaving. I'm leaving the way a lot of my favorite people who review movies are feeling this. Nah.
Right.
You'll like it.
Yeah.
There's some things you won't like. Same way. 7.5. That puts it kind of in the C average. Yeah, that's where I'm sitting.
Right. It's actually kind of crazy. I was hovering between two things. Actually, I was sitting on a 7.5 for the longest coming out of this. I am going to make that slight bump to 8.
Okay.
That very very slight bump. I for a number of the same reasons that you post about what holds this movie back from being in the great upper echelon of things. But look, for all those shortcomings, still we've still got a couple of great movies coming up. I cannot wait to see Endgame now. Of course, we're gonna have Spider-Man after that, so this stuff is in some way going to get corrected. Really looking forward to her role in the rest of it. Also seeing how she fills the shoes of Carol Danvers. I think the character works. I think she's working as Captain Marvel. And till next time, 8 out of 10.
All right. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing what the future brings for this. Just please get a different director. Or there was 2 directors for this. Get a different crew behind the next Captain Marvel movie. Not a big fan of how they handled a lot of stuff, which is seriously the number one reason why this isn't a much higher rated movie for me.
For sure.
All right, guys, let us know what you think. Give us comments below. And if you want to hear some more drama, we'll be talking more about this. This SJW garbage. Just all this garbage surrounding this movie. We'll be talking about that at greater scope in our podcast coming up this weekend. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, man. Hey, fave, comment, subscribe. Would love to hear more from you guys about this. Or, hey, what are some other links you think belong from this movie into some of the past films we're seeing? Maybe something that we just didn't hit in this review, or something else you think is going to happen in Endgame. We'd love to hear it. Other than that, though, we'll be chatting more about the surrounding issues for this coming up this weekend. Of course, have the short form review for this up and much more. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Look, we love it. We appreciate it. And, hey, keep listening right here. Stay tuned to the channel for more for our weekly podcast, as Chris has been talking about. We have that each weekend. We cover a whole multitude of things, ranging from MCU to gaming, who knows what else. And, of course, you can stay locked right here for more of our gaming reviews and more. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Take it easy. Hey, people. Thank you for tuning into this episode and taking a listen. If you like our content, if you like what you're listening to, there anything we go over, hey, please, we would not only love to hear more from you, but it's great if you could throw some support. You can subscribe right below. Also, you can toss us a line anytime. That's ksongmedia@gmail.com. Of course, you can tune in for our channel anytime for movie reviews, game reviews, a lot of random wacky stuff. Who knows what you'll hear. And, of course, our episode each week where we're bringing the nerdiest things we can find, pick up, and maybe not find. Maybe the stuff that just drops in our laps. But anyway, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We hope to hear from you again later. Take care.